There are two different modes that you can select using the zoomer tool. The first is called normal mode. You can access by just pressing and holding on the zoom button. And the second is single zoom. Normal zoom allows you to zoom in and out on a particular audio or MIDI clip by just clicking with the magnifying glass. Single zoom allows you to zoom in on a particular item, and once you have done zooming in, you'll see that my edit tools went back to the prior tool that was selected. So it'll only zoom once and then we'll go back to the tool you had selected before. So if I have the scrubber tool selected and I choose the zoomer tool and zoom in on an area, you can see it automatically switches back to the scrubber tool when I'm done zooming. So that's the main difference between normal zoom, stays in zoom mode, and single zoom, which reverts back to the prior edit tool you were using. When you're using the zoomer tool, all you need to do is click with the magnifying glass and it zooms in each time you click with your mouse. Now you might say, well, when I get zoomed in, how do I zoom back out? You use the Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC modifier key. So you'll notice when I press the Option or Alt modifier key, my magnifying glass shows a minus sign saying it's going to zoom back out. This is an important item to understand right away with Pro Tools, is that the Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC modifier key almost always acts as a reversal. So if you're using the pencil tool and you want to use the eraser instead, you'll use the Option or Alt modifier key to reverse the functionality of that particular button. So the same is true in this case with the zoomer tool. If you want to zoom in, you click on a particular clip. If you want to zoom back out, you use the Option modifier key. One shortcut that you can use with the zoomer tool, if you're zoomed all the way in on something and you want to zoom back out so you can see your longest visible clip in your Pro Tools session, is just to double click on the zoomer tool itself. As soon as you double click, it will zoom out and show you the longest clip, in this case a MIDI clip, in your Pro Tools session. The trim tool can be selected by going over here and selecting the trim tool icon. You'll notice that when you hold down the trim tool icon, you have 4 different options, 3 different options if you're using a standard version of Pro Tools. I'm using HD, so I have 4. They are the standard trim tool, the time compression expansion trim tool, scrub trim tool, and the loop trim tool. So we're only going to cover the standard trim tool in this course. The trim tool allows you to trim audio or MIDI from the beginning or end of an audio or MIDI clip. One of the things that you'll notice as soon as I start trimming this audio clip, over here you'll see that this clip, audio 1_3, corresponds to this clip right here. So when I start trimming this clip, you'll notice that a new clip is created. That's because anytime you edit in Pro Tools, the editing that you do is non-destructive. So essentially, if we wanted to pull back the edit that we made, everything is still underlying this clip. So we're only doing non-destructive editing. Anything can be undone, as you can see. This is the selector tool. We can click on that. It kind of has 2 functions. One is to place the playback cursor. You can see when I just click, it's placing the playback cursor. And the second is to actually make a selection. You can do that by clicking and dragging. You can also make a selection by clicking where you want your selection to begin and then shift and clicking where you want that selection to end. When you make a selection, that area gets darkened, and you'll also notice that it's darkened up here in your timeline as well. You can choose to select one specific track, or you can select adjacent tracks by just moving vertically as well as horizontally. You can select the grabber tool by just clicking on the icon. And if you click and hold down, you'll see there's 3 types of grabber tools that are available. We'll only be concerned with the first one. The grabber tool is used for selecting an entire clip with one click. So if we just click on this clip, it will select the entire thing. Same with this MIDI clip. Also, the grabber tool can be used to grab and to move a clip. Now, the clip is going to move based on the edit mode that we have selected. So if we're in slip mode, it's going to slip freely from left to right. If we are in grid mode, it's going to snap to whatever grid value we have selected up here. This icon right here is the scrubber tool. It's used to scrub audio or MIDI data. Now, when I say scrub audio and MIDI data, what I mean is, in the early days before digital audio workstations, they used to have tape machines, and if you were looking for a specific location on the tape to edit, you may scrub the tape across the playheads, and it would wind up sounding like this. Check, 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 check. And they would use that to try to find a specific location. So Pro Tools also has this functionality, and it's contained in the scrub tool. So you can click and then move your mouse left or right. If you move it to the right, it moves forward through your audio. And if you move it to the left, it goes backwards through your audio. Hello. You can do the exact same thing with MIDI. So you can click and scrub over MIDI data. I'm just moving my cursor left to right, holding down the left mouse button. For more precise results, it's always a good idea to zoom in on the material you are trying to scrub. It makes it a little easier to find the exact location you might be looking for. The pencil tool can be used for a couple of different things. It can be used to actually redraw waveforms if you zoom all the way into the sample level. Most commonly, though, the pencil tool is used to draw continuous controller data or also some automation data in Pro Tools. So let me show you that real quick. Let's just get some audio in there. Since I've got my vocal up, I'll just do a drum thing. Okay, there we go. Now we've got our piece of audio. We're going to go ahead and make it loop. And we'll select the pencil tool. And we'll automate pan. And we'll do every quarter note. So what we could use the pencil tool for, in this case, would be to click and hold. You'll see there's a variety of pencil tools. We can choose a freehand tool to draw. Something like that. You can see that the automation that we drew is affecting the pan. So we could also undo that, and we could select maybe a triangle, and we're going to have the triangle now snap to the grid based on quarter notes. So you get the idea. You can use a variety of pencil tools, even including random, to affect your audio or MIDI. Now I mentioned that you can go in at the sample level and actually redraw the samples. Let's show you that. So I could go here, for example, Go all the way into the sample level, and let's make this a little bit bigger. And now with the pencil tool, we could take and we could actually redraw the waveform. Now you can see that this is different than what I originally had. Okay, so you can use this to redraw waveforms. Most of the time, when you'll use this is if you get a piece of distortion on your audio or a bad pop or click that's not acceptable to have. You might want to go in and actually redraw where that pop or click occurs. That's the main purpose for being able to redraw a waveform at the sample level. So that's the pencil tool. The last remaining tool we need to talk about is called the Smart tool. The Smart tool is actually just a combination of three tools we've already discussed: the Trim tool, Selector tool, and Grabber tool. There's a couple of different ways to activate the Smart tool. I think the best way to enable the Smart tool is to click on this bar up here above the Smart tool. You can do that by just clicking right there. I mentioned earlier that the Smart tool gives you the functionality of all three of these tools without actually having to change and click on their specific buttons. Let me show you how that works. If you are near the end of a clip, you'll see that my cursor changes to the Trim tool icon. Above the center line right here of this clip, we have access to the Selector tool. Below the center line, our cursor changes to the Grabber tool, and we have that functionality now. You can also access fades with the Smart tool. You can do that by going to the upper left or right hand corner of a clip, clicking and dragging to create your fade. So that's the Smart tool. I use that almost on a continual basis. I hardly ever use the individual tools. I just keep the Smart tool enabled. But there are plenty of professional engineers who don't use the Smart tool and use each tool individually.